Atimiaphobia. The fear of losing honor or being labeled as shameless due to the sexual values assigned to feminine gender. Honor, being a positive contributor to mental health, is primarily related to a person's moral character. Some societies, however, prevail a culture of honor that may have adverse psychological effects which have never been analyzed precisely. The culture of honor expects men to react viciously to any obvious risks to their reputation. These risks are based on the actions taken by women. These actions are mostly sexual in nature. Women are blamed to modify, damage, or improve the honor of a family, and men are expected to maintain family's honor. Honor is regarded as a property of men, that is, only men can be honorable. Shame, on the other hand, is a counterpart of honor which belongs to women only. Shame demands a female to be vigilant of all her activities and to be careful about her image. This image is also related to her sexual purity. In a culture where honor is highly regarded, women learn to consider themselves inferior to men. Men, who cannot protect the honor of their families, are not considered men. The aspects of honor and shame in this context are mostly related to the sexual value the societies give to women. The adverse psychological effects of such cultures have not been clinically labeled in the earlier literature. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders has also not apprehended this construct specifically. Dr. Sukoon developed and validated a new construct in this regard, that is, Atimiaphobia, the fear of losing honor or being labeled as shameless due to the sexual values assigned to feminine gender. The development and validation of this construct was carried out through 5 consecutive studies by Dr. Sukoon. Understanding Atimiaphobia requires knowledge on some related concepts such as sexuality, honor, and shame. Sexuality is a broader term which involves the biological, psychological, cultural, social, and cognitive aspects. The subjective perceptions of sexuality are based on sexual self-schema, and the cognitive representations of sexuality. The sociosexual orientation is another important aspect of sexuality. This is reflected through gender roles, also referred to sex roles, that develop the cognitive expectations about what is the appropriate sexual behavior for each sex. Historically, the dominant gender roles have been assigned to men and the submissive gender roles have been allocated to women. The concepts of gender have been thoroughly revised in the Western world recently. The concept of psychological androgyny has proposed lesser gender-based differences among men and women. Recent scholars believe that gender roles are culturally constructed, and both the sexes are capable of projecting masculine and feminine attributes. Gender inequality, however, is still a global practice. Women are considered to be more at risk of abuse and exploitation as compared to men. They are mostly dependent on men for their survival and development. Sexual objectification of women is another well-established phenomenon through which women are expected to be sexually attractive to please men. They are expected to be in the service of men as housemaids, even if they don't want. Women, in many parts of the world, can be regarded as a matter of shame for the family and society if they go against the prevalent gender roles assigned to them. These socio-cognitive perceptions encourage men to develop negative attitudes towards women and undermine the value of women as independent sexual beings. Honor can be defined as a varied set of guiding codes on how to sustain a positive self and social image while being part of a larger community. Honor is based on having higher self-worth and higher self-esteem through social appraisal, the respect of a person in the eyes of others, and the reason for a person to feel worth and pride. Honor relates to pride, and dishonor is associated with shame and rage. Honor works within cultural frameworks, and, to be honored, one must comply to social values. Honor is such a shared asset of a family that can be lost or picked up. As honor can be easily gone and is difficult to retrieve, anything that makes one dishonorable or unvirtuous must be dealt with quickly. Restoration of honor is of prime importance. This may involve honor violence, which can include social isolation, psychological and physical abuse, domestic abuse, forced suicides, forced marriage, marital rape, and even murder. Those not taking aggressive measures to deal with such affronts are perceived as weak, dishonorable, and guilty of whatever brought about the affront. Honor can be typified into morality-based honor, family honor, masculine honor, and feminine honor. The codes of honor vary for men and women. To be good, women are expected to comply to social values more seriously, should suppress their desires, should not be vocal about sexuality, should not take decisions independently, etc. Adherence to the codes of honor also involves emotional reactions. People who have a strong concern of honor feel more enraged when they are insulted than those who have a poor sense of honor. Married are more likely to support an honor-based culture. Honor killing is associated with low socioeconomic status and is also prevalent in Western cultures. Religion also plays its role in developing a culture of honor. Honor is more prioritized in collectivistic cultures. In collectivistic cultures, an individual's social identity is dependent on his social standing, social reputation, social status, social respect, and how well he carries out the roles and responsibilities related to family. The individualistic cultures, on the other hand, teach children to compare themselves with their own personal standards and to ignore what people have to say about them. The culture of honor originates where a family's wealth and sources of income such as cattle or sheep are stolen easily, and the system of justice is ineffective. As a result, men in these areas must adopt characteristics of strength, toughness, and become one that cannot be messed with, to avoid theft and assault. Women, on the other hand, desire to give birth to sons only, to be honorable. The culture of honor is more likely to be present in the lawless societies where the state is unable to protect people from predators. Defining and maintaining the reputation of an individual's as well as of the society is the key function of a culture of honor. Cultures where honor is predominant, people who do not comply to the set code of honor are considered untrustworthy. People who maintain and restore honor, on the other hand, are respected and seen as trustworthy. The culture of honor can be ineffective in environments where reputation is superseded by the presence of effective authority. Individuals in the non-honor or dignity cultures, on the other hand, value their self-worth intrinsically, believing that everyone has equal worth that cannot be removed by others. Shame is an emotion and can be defined as a negative self-evaluation or feeling bad about oneself. Considering one to be flawed, insufficient, unwanted, useless, inferior, worthless, or all can be examples of projecting shame. Shame is a social phenomenon, and it requires audience to feel shame. Shame resilience theory regards shame as a reaction to abstain one from the feelings to being caught or being disgraced. The self-discrepancy theory regards shame as one's guilt on moral grounds. Shame results from a process of self-evaluation in which the individual is involved in evaluating his or her own worth or self-esteem. Shame can also be taken as a worry about the disclosure of any negative information about a person to the society. The disclosure of the negative information to a larger group of people may further cause social defame and devaluation. The intensity of shame, therefore, increases by the increase in the likelihood of devaluation. Shame is culturally determined and varies from culture to culture. Collectivistic cultures promote shame societies, where individuals are afraid of social defame. Individualistic cultures, on the other hand, promote guilt societies, where individuals are worried to be legally punished for their wrongdoings. Shame destroys the positive self-image of a person. Shame is regarded as an emotional trauma which also carries low self-esteem and a sense of uselessness. The biophysical and psychosocial discomfort developed by shame is easily observable through behaviors such as flushing in the face or body, lowering down one's head, shaking and avoiding one's eye gaze away from others. Due to mixture of emotional, physical, or interpersonal components, the feeling of shame become intolerable. Shame is positively correlated with guilt, aggression, and several mental issues such as depression, generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Women sense humiliation much faster than men, and adolescents feel more shame than adults. Separated men and women were found to have higher levels of shame as compared to single or married individuals. Financial well-being is inversely correlated with shame. Dr. Sukoon conducted 5 consecutive studies in which the fear of losing honor or being labeled as shameless due to the sexual values assigned to feminine gender was theoretically and statistically analyzed. A new label was also proposed for this condition, that is Atimiaphobia. The fear of losing honor due to the sexual values assigned to feminine gender is attributed to men, and the fear of being labeled as shameless due to the sexual values assigned to feminine gender is attributed to women. The earlier literature has been focusing on the adverse psychological effects of honor and shame on the individuals who have been the direct victims of violence and crime. The adverse psychological effects of being a passive part of honor cultures, or shame societies, have not been studied earlier from a diagnostic perspective. The current series of studies by Dr. Sukoon focused on analyzing the psychopathological effects of honor cultures, or shame societies, on the overall general population, who are not directly involved in any incidents of violence but live in the same culture. The proposed and analyzed condition Atimiaphobia can be placed under the category of specific phobia, within the framework of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. The first study among the 5 consecutive studies analyzed the theoretical aspects of Atimiaphobia and reviewed sufficient literature in this regard. A new scale, Atimiaphobia scale, as was developed thereafter, which was initially tested in the first study through principal component analysis. The second study did the exploratory factor analysis, and the third study did the confirmatory factor analysis of the AS. The fourth study analyzed the discriminant validity of the AS through social intelligence. The fifth and the last study analyzed the convergent validity of the AS through generalized anxiety disorder and shame. The total number of participants in the series of 5 studies was 1404, including 136 men and 1268 women. Atimiaphobia scale was developed and validated in the current study. It intends to measure the fear of losing honor and being labeled as shameless. It comprises 15 items in English and involves a 5-point Likert scale. The AS has 4 sub-scales which are labeled as anxiety, social compliance, social appraisal, and honor. Generalized anxiety disorder and the experience of shame scale were used to measure the convergent validity of the AS. The Psychosocial intelligence scale was used to measure the discriminant validity of the AS. A demographic information questionnaire was also used to obtain information about participants' gender, age, education, and marital status. The findings revealed that the level of Atimiaphobia among the understudied participants was 70% as an average of the levels recorded in the 5 consecutive studies. Women had significantly higher level of Atimiaphobia as compared to men. Women also revealed significantly higher levels on the 2 sub-factors of Atimiaphobia, namely anxiety and honor. Atimiaphobia had significantly positive correlations with generalized anxiety disorder, shame, and education. Atimiaphobia had significantly inverse correlation with social intelligence. Shame had significantly inverse correlation with age. The findings of the aforesaid studies by Dr. Sukoon propose that Atimiaphobia comprises of 4 factors, namely anxiety, social compliance, social appraisal, and honor. Anxiety refers to the excessive worry for the happenings of the future. Anxiety is regarded as the most common and a chronic mental disorder which may lead to several other mental and physical problems. Anxiety encourages a person to take necessary actions to reduce the ongoing stress. Anxiety related to losing honor or being labeled as shameless motivates people to avoid situations or happenings which could make them dishonored within their families and the society. Social compliance is to follow social norms, especially the ones which are ordered by the authorities. Social compliance affects the attitudes, personalities, behavior, and mental health of people and directs these to be in line with the society. Social compliance is more prevalent in collectivistic cultures. Unwilling social compliance results in poor mental health, anxiety, and depression. Social appraisal is a result of social compliance. It prevents social rejection. Honor, as discussed earlier, refers to having a higher self-worth, within the perspective of social interactions. People who would have higher levels of Atimiaphobia would be more socially compliant and desirous for social appraisal. Based on the 4 sub-factors, Atimiaphobia is regarded as the fear of losing honor or being labeled as shameless. Atimiaphobia involves excessive worry to be dishonored or labeled as shameless, within the family and the society. The Atimiaphobics, therefore, would have a strong desire to stay honorable, comply significantly with social norms, and to be appraised within the family and the society. They would have illogical beliefs and would exhibit irrational behavior to protect them from being dishonored or being labeled as shameless. Women would be the prime source of honor in this regard. Some prominent social behaviors in this regard would be being against women empowerment, marrying a female without her consent, considering the initiating of marital proposal by a female or her family members is shameful, prohibiting the premarital meeting of the spouses, preferring joint family system for the married couple, prohibiting family planning, hitting or beating the wife, allowing marital rape, degrading an infertile mother or the one who could not give birth to male children, suppressing female sexuality and avoiding unconventional sexual practices in a marital relationship, etc. The aforesaid studies were carried out in Pakistan, which is the sixth largest population of the world and a developing country. The overall picture of the mental health situation in the country is not the one that could be appreciated. Being a collectivistic culture, honor has a great value among Pakistanis. A cross-cultural study with Pakistani and European American adult students revealed that Pakistanis placed greater value on the importance of safeguarding their family's honor than the European American. One among the 5 women who were murdered in Pakistan is killed in the name of honor. Solberg. The findings of the current studies revealed that the level of Atimiaphobia among Pakistanis was 70%. Women had significantly higher levels of Atimiaphobia as compared to men. Women, in general, are considered to have more mental disorders as compared to men. This implies to Pakistani women too. Resolving the psychosocial issues for Pakistani women is more difficult for women as compared to men. The code of conduct for honor, on the other hand, differs significantly for men and women and involves different sex roles and intersex relational codes for both the genders. Feminine honor focuses on modesty, decorum, and sexual propriety. Masculine honor involves protecting the family, which includes controlling a female's sexual behavior to be considered as a real man. The use of aggression by men to control their romantic partners and other female family members is justified, and women are expected to accept this in the name of honor. Killing a female family member to protect a family's honor is also prevalent in some cultures. Collectivistic patrilineal societies place their norms and standards around women's appearances, actions, and choices made in life, all of which are strongly correlated with the entire family's principles and honor. Women are dishonored due to several sociocultural factors such as infidelity or not being virgin at the time of marriage. Additionally, women report to be more socially more compliant as compared to men. Men and women deal with shame differently, and women feel more shame as compared to men. All these factors encourage women to be more cautious about their social reputation to maintain the family's honor. The findings of the current studies have positively correlated Atimiaphobia with shame and generalized anxiety disorder. This connection is quite natural, as anxiety itself has been considered a prime cause for several other related mental conditions. The significantly inverse correlation between Atimiaphobia and social intelligence is another important finding retrieved from the aforesaid studies. It indicates that the higher levels of social intelligence help in reducing Atimiaphobia. Social intelligence is the ability to get along with other people in a successful way while possessing practical skills such as situational awareness, presence, authenticity, clarity, and empathy. It is the ability of being aware of significant social situational contexts, dealing with the contexts or challenges in an effective manner, being able to understand others' distresses, feelings, and emotional states, and having a clear and convincing style of speaking, knowing what, when, and how to say things, and building and preserving positive relationships with others. Social intelligence is comprised of 2 primary: situational awareness and situational response, and 2 secondary: cognitive empathy and social skills. Situational awareness involves being able to gather information to diagnose and formulate a problem in the relevant social contexts. Situational response is being able to use the information gathered to come up with effective decisions that will give desirable results. Cognitive empathy involves being able to consciously place oneself into the mind of another individual to fully comprehend the other person's thoughts and feelings. Social skills include speaking clearly and convincingly, and knowing the appropriate time, place, manner of speaking with others. It is, therefore, quite possible for Atimiaphobics to possess lesser levels of social intelligence. The aforesaid studies by Dr. Sukoon are worthwhile contributions to the theoretical and as well as the applied aspects of feminism, gender, sexuality, culture, and psychopathology. The thesis of these studies intended to fill a knowledge gap in exploring the adverse psychological effects developed within honor cultures, or shame societies. Thanks for listening. To read the entire paper, kindly visit www.dersakoon.info.